Janet Vokes led a monotonous life, waking up early to shower while her pet waited. Near the stairs, it's clear Jan won various contests, including one at the Pigeon Racing Club. She went out on foot to start her activities, working as a cashier at one of the supermarkets in the village, and she looked so bored. After work, Jan went to her parents' house because her dad called, saying her mom had fallen while trying to light a fire. Jan scolded her mom for not waiting for her help, but her mom retorted that she hated feeling dependent on Jan. Her dad remarked that Jan was left with only her useless husband, Brian, to take care of. Besides being a cashier, she also worked as a barmaid at a nearby pub at night. One night, she overheard Howard Davis and his friends discussing a horse racing competition. The pub owner, Gerwin, told her that Howard was an accountant who once had his own racehorse but almost lost everything: his money, house, and even his wife. Unable to sleep, Janet looked at her family's competition photos and awards and saw a picture of her husband with a horse. The next morning, at the supermarket, she found a magazine about horse racing, which reignited her enthusiasm. After calculating their savings and doing some research, Jan proposed to her husband that they use their money to buy a mare and breed her with a top-notch racehorse. Even though Brian initially disagreed and suggested getting more pigeons instead, Jan persisted, pointing out her past success with budgies, rabbits, and pigeons, winning prizes along the way. She had already found the perfect mare and explained how they could raise the foals together for races. After hearing her out, Brian sighed and eventually went along with it, as he often ended up following Jan's ideas. They checked out the mare. The owner assured Jan she was a purebred racehorse and said her foal would likely be a great racehorse. Jan paid £300 for the mare and named her Rubel. When Rubel arrived in a truck, villagers were wondering about what was inside. The village where Jan lived was small and quite remote, with most of the inhabitants being elderly. When Jan tried to invite Rubel outside, the horse refused. Brian stepped in with his decades of experience managing livestock. He seemed to understand animal behavior and patiently fed Rubel until she finally agreed to come out, guiding her to the paddock. That night at the pub, Jan met Howard again and shared her ambitious plans to breed racehorses with Rubel. Howard, who knew about racehorse care, seemed unsure about the high costs of raising racehorses, which are usually tackled by wealthy professionals. But Jan wouldn't back down. She insisted she'd start a horse racing group to chase her dreams. Jan handed out flyers about their new racehorse breeding club, and it wasn't as easy as she had hoped. At the office, despite Howard's initial skepticism, deep down he shared Jan's dream of owning a racehorse and winning races. He couldn't stop thinking about Jan's proposal, and eventually visited her after hours to express his interest in joining the racing venture. That evening at the pub, they waited in the meeting room, hoping for new members to join their racing alliance. After 15 minutes with no one there, they heard footsteps, and it turned out to be Gerwin, the pub owner. Brian told Jan she'd done her best. Just when they were about to give up, people started showing up. 9 people joined, making a total of 12. Jan explained that each member would co-own the horses and split race winnings evenly. After a long meeting, they agreed to invest and pitch in 10 quid each week for horse care. That night, they formed a racing alliance with 12 owners for one horse. Later, Jan and Brian introduced Rubel to a male racehorse named Bien Bien for mating. While waiting for Rubel to mate, they shared a moment of joy and renewed enthusiasm for their goals after a long, dull life. Rubel finally became pregnant, bringing great joy to everyone. About 11 months later, while Jan was at work, Brian called to tell her that Rubel had given birth. Jan was super excited and rushed home, even though it was during working hours. Arriving at the stable, she found Rubel's foal safe. Brian sadly informed her that Rubel hadn't survived childbirth. Jan was devastated by the news. To ensure the foal wasn't stressed, Alliance members visited. They were delighted to see the foal's agility. That evening, the Alliance gathered to celebrate the birth. They deliberated on a name for the foal, and Jan spontaneously suggested Dream Alliance. The name resonated with them all, symbolizing their shared dream of winning prestigious horse races. Dream Alliance won the vote unanimously. While with Dream, Jan remembered competing in a dog show in Pontypridd, Wales, with her dad as a child. They unexpectedly won first and second prizes, filling her father with pride, showing her that anything was possible. Now, looking at Dream, Jan felt a similar sense of hope and possibility. A few years passed, and Dream grew into a dashing horse. One day, Howard mailed Jan, saying their savings target was reached. Then, Jan and Brian took Dream to the best racehorse training facility in the country. There, a man named Jackson greeted them and initially thought they had the wrong address. They explained they had an appointment with the owner, Philip Hobbs. Unlike other horse owners who arrived in helicopters or luxury cars, Philip seemed dismissive of them. Before leaving with a sharp gaze, Jan said they would take their business elsewhere. After looking at Dream, Philip called them back and agreed to give Dream a test. Dream was reluctant at first, but eventually, he started cooperating with the jockey. Hobbs decided to give Dream a shot in his training program for a few months, just like Jan hoped for. After all that training, Howard called Jan to say Dream was ready and signed up for a beginner's horse race. The Alliance members eagerly prepared to watch Dream's first race in England, with Kirby hurriedly getting on the bus just in time, even with his zipper undone. Once everyone was on board, the bus set off for the venue. On their way to the race, the group was excited, with Maureen exclaiming she hadn't felt this way since Wales beat England at Wembley. At the entrance, the staff informed Kirby that alcohol wasn't allowed and asked him to hand it over, so he quickly drank it and gave the empty can and plastic to the staff. Howard panicked when he couldn't find his owner's ticket, but after contacting Philip, he was allowed in. In the owner's room, other people were puzzled by the 12 owners of one horse, as they appeared much plainer than the elite-looking horse owners. The race began with Dream as number 3. Initially stressed by the crowd's roar, Dream took the wrong direction. However, Jan's silent prayers seemed to reach him, and Dream turned around and started running. Despite being far behind, Dream caught up and surprisingly finished in 4th place. Jan and the Alliance were very proud. On their way home, they celebrated Dream's achievement by singing together. When Howard got home, he found his wife, Angela, upset after finding his horse racing ticket. She reminded him of how close they came to losing everything and how they even dipped into the kids' university fund to cover the mortgage. Howard apologized, explaining that the Alliance minimized the financial risk, but Angela, still angry, threatened divorce if he didn't quit horse racing. As months passed, Jan proudly displayed all the awards and newspaper articles about Dream, who had been consistently winning races, placing 4th, 3rd, and 2nd. Although Dream had not yet won 1st place, he had made a significant impact in the horse racing world. The Alliance members were confident that Dream would soon achieve a 1st place victory. The next day, Jan visited Dream at the racehorse training facility. She confided in him, saying that she had always been seen as Elsie's daughter, Dennis and Sasha's mother, and Brian's wife, but watching Dream race made her feel like herself. Then, Philip informed her that Dream would compete in a big race in Newbury, England. On race day, the course had several hurdles, and most people expected Fearless Pursuit, Lord Avery's previous winner, to claim victory. Jan was worried because Dream had never faced such obstacles before. And the racehorse competition kicked off. Their strong bond helped Dream overcome the challenges, and now Dream was in 2nd place, just behind Fearless Pursuit. Did he make it? Yes! Dream crossed the finish line first, defeating Fearless Pursuit. The Alliance members were overjoyed and rushed to see Dream, with Jan gently holding his head. Dream had won a prize of £26,250 sterling, marking the peak of Jan's dream. In the horse's stable, Lord Avery congratulated them and offered to buy Dream, but Jan flatly rejected his offer, even when he offered £500 million. Avery hoped she might change her mind. The Alliance members weren't happy, thinking they should all decide about selling the horse. Jan stood firm, saying Dream wasn't for sale, supported by Howard, who emphasized it was the right thing morally. While celebrating Dream's win all night at the pub, she thanked Howard for his support, and he said it was always about more than money. The next morning at work, Howard got in trouble for watching a horse race video and sending a bad email to a client. When his boss questioned his role, Howard admitted his frustration with helping the rich dodge taxes while others struggled to get by, calling it legalized robbery, just like Kirby had said.
I call it legalized robbery myself.
Fed up, he packed up his stuff and decided to quit. At home, he argued with his wife, explaining he couldn't stick with the job anymore. Joining Jan and the syndicate had given him a sense of something meaningful for the first time in years. His wife called him selfish and reckless, but Howard insisted he could figure things out. Meanwhile, Jan found Brian looking gloomy because he missed Dream. Jen noticed how excited Brian had been when Dream first arrived, but now that Dream was in training, Brian had reverted to his old routine of watching TV. Brian brushed it off, saying he was content enough. Jan challenged him on being happy enough, recalling how he had shrugged off losing his job and accepted arthritis as part of aging. She reminded him how he used to be a fighter when they first met, but now he seemed resigned to things. Brian agreed, acknowledging that Jan's father was right, she could have achieved more. Howard transitioned into independent tax advising and received payment from Neres, an Alliance member who was a butcher, with sirloin. Jen then came and questioned his career change from his stable job in Cardiff. Howard shared that his father ran away at 14 to pursue a career as a jockey, lying about his age, but ended up working at a steelworks for the rest of his life after being caught and brought home by the police. Howard recalled his father's advice to never give up on dreams. He also mentioned that Philip wanted Dream to race at Aintree soon, which made her thrilled. Jen visited her parents to share Dream's upcoming race and a major event, hoping to make them proud. However, Jan's dad didn't say anything about Dream, which annoyed her enough to scold him before she left in disappointment. On race day at Aintree, the atmosphere was tense with a larger, more crowded field than before. Even Dream seemed nervous. Despite her worries, Jan remained optimistic, believing Dream would conquer all obstacles and win the championship. Dream was performing well, holding third place as they approached the final bend. Suddenly, Dream disappeared from sight on the track. Jan and the Alliance members were bewildered and panicked as an ambulance and veterinarian rushed to attend to Dream, placing screens around him. Howard contacted Philip, who explained that Dream had suffered a severed tendon. Philip outlined the tough choices: either euthanize Dream to end his suffering and claim the insurance money, or go for a risky surgery with uncertain results. Jan faced a heart-wrenching decision, splitting the alliance between those pushing for Dream's survival against slim chances of success, and those thinking about the financial impact of euthanasia. Jen argued passionately that they shouldn't prioritize money, pointing out how Dream had brought hope and unity to their community. Brian, usually quiet, spoke up loudly in support of Jan, emphasizing that Dream deserved the same second chance he had given them. Howard said Dream had given them all a second chance, and told Philip to make sure the vet did everything they could to save Dream. Jan and the Alliance members nervously waited through the night for updates on Dream's surgery. Finally, Philip called with the news that the surgery had gone well. He explained that while Dream had a successful operation, the odds of racing again were low. For Jan, the crucial thing was knowing that Dream had a chance to heal. When Jan was working as a cashier, she met Howard's wife, Angela, and praised her for supporting Howard, something not many wives would do. Jen understood the importance of the racehorse to Howard because of his dad's story, but guessed Angela already knew. From my shallow observation, it seemed Angela didn't know the story. What do you guys think? After work, Jan received a call from Brian informing her of her father's death. While going through her father's belongings afterward, she found an envelope with newspaper clippings about Dream's racing career. Overwhelmed with regret for her previous harsh words, Jan realized her father had quietly cherished her dreams and was proud of her efforts with Dream. She also found her childhood photos with notes on the back, which left her sobbing. After the funeral, she focused on supporting her mother through this difficult time. Howard got an unexpected email from Philip inviting him and Jan to check out Dream's progress at the training facility. They arrived the next morning and were shocked to see Dream running with a jockey, seeming completely healed. Jan asked if Dream was really ready, but they all witnessed him running faster than ever. Philip explained the successful stem cell treatment had made Dream's tendons stronger than before. They were amazed by Dream's recovery and decided he was fit to race again. Philip planned to register Dream for national-level competition, but only if everyone in the alliance was on board. They had a meeting that night where Jan voiced worries about risking Dream's life again. Despite her concerns, everyone else agreed that Dream deserved the shot. Gowan reminded Jan of her past support for giving Dream a chance, questioning why if not to race again. Jan argued that the Welsh Grand National track was too dangerous for Dream. However, Brian, typically supportive of Jan, sided with the others this time, which disappointed her and made her walk out of the meeting. Brian went after Jan to calm her down.
That's why I'm single, see?
She accused him of not understanding Dream's situation. Brian reassured her, saying Dream reminded him of his own dreams of becoming a farmer when he was young, dreams he had given up on. He felt hurt when Dream left for the stables and again when he fell at Aintree. Brian believed Dream would want to race if he could speak, as they both couldn't stop dreaming of bigger things. On race day, Howard was surprised to find his wife and 2 kids there to support him, even though she was against it before. The villagers gathered to support Dream, who had become a symbol of pride for their community. Excitement for the race spread beyond the field to the whole country. Before the race began, the Welsh national anthem echoed through the air. As the jockeys got ready, Dream seemed a bit unsettled, maybe because of his ruptured tendon, which was understandable. The Welsh Grand National started. Dream Alliance emerged victorious in his first race after a long recovery. The celebration was contagious, even reaching Lord Avery, who had once planned to buy Dream. When everyone rushed to Dream and cheered for their victory, Howard wasn't there. Brian glanced around, trying to find him. It turned out that Howard stood quietly by the track until Angela came over, asking how he was feeling. He confessed he needed a moment. A quiet word with his late father about this win. Angela assured him that his father would be immensely proud. The Alliance members were warmly embraced by the villagers, marking Dream's journey from local hero to national icon. Dream's story is proof that dreams can come true, turning a village symbol into a source of pride for the entire country. Subscribe for more videos like this. Until next time, take care and see you in the next video.